In this episode, we talk with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu instructor and adaptive athlete Pete McGregor. Pete talks about leaving one's comfort zone, adapting after serious trauma, and the reality that life is finite and why going after what you really want to do is one of the highest callings possible. Tune in.
5.5 years ago, I was shot multiple times and I was diagnosed with a spinal cord injury. Well, at that moment, I didn't know how drastic my life was about to change. And it didn't change for the worse, but it changed for the better.
I was talking with my palliative care doctor today, and she turned around to me and she looked at me and she was like, do you think that if you keep on doing all these things that you'll eventually beat this? And I was sort of like, actually, yeah, that's probably what I'm trying to do.
Well, I know what my body's going to do to me. I've got a wheelchair in my future, but you know what I've been looking for?
What's that?
One with off-road wheels.
No, nothing will ever take away the pain of my daughter not being here. My reality.
If you could go back to that day, February 18, 1990, and change what happened, my honest answer is I wouldn't change it because if I didn't get hurt that day, I wouldn't be in front of that school. I wouldn't be in front of the schools in the upcoming weeks, or I wouldn't be talking with you. This is just my journey, and it's given me an opportunity to have a profound impact on a lot of people and inspire and change lives.
You can expect life to kick you in the teeth, but you always get back up no matter what, and you just keep going.
Living Adaptive with Scott Davidson, a podcast about learning to live adaptively.
Yo, what's up, everybody? I am with Pete McGregor right now, and really quickly, Pete McGregor trains out of the 10th Planet Brazilian Jiu Jitsu system. Pete is a rare ambassador of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and really combat sports in general, and you will hear why. Pete travels the world teaching and training in the combat arts. Pete has a spinal cord injury that occurred when he was 8 years old and shares a message of perseverance. What's up, Pete McGregor? Thanks for coming on, man.
No problem, Scott. Thanks for having me.
All right, Pete. So I have a ton of research on you, but one of my favorite facts about you that you mentioned before is that comedian Joey Diaz influenced you to get into the gym, meaning the Joey Diaz podcast, and got you moving. And I love that podcast, one of the funniest podcasts out there. And I don't know him, but does he know he motivated you to get in there because you are affiliated with 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu?
Yeah, I haven't come across him yet, but as we know, his podcast, The Church of What's Happening Now, it's one of the better podcasts out there if you just want something real in your life, And I just had the fortune of having him in my life at the right time when I thought about jiu-jitsu, and he was doing jiu-jitsu at the time. And, whatever he was saying to me on whatever podcast it was, I was lying in a hospital bed, and, I really got motivated listening to him talk about jiu-jitsu. It wasn't necessarily that I hadn't thought about doing it before, but it was definitely him that gave me that last push to get out and give it a shot.
What were you in a hospital for, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh man, I don't. I've been going through a lot of things over a long period of time. Probably, obviously, I've been in a wheelchair since I was 8 years old. But there was about a 12-year period there where I was dealing with complications related to. I have no hip socket on my right side, so my skin was breaking down. The muscle fibers were getting torn and shredded. The tissue was breaking down. I was just having all sorts of problems with my seating and my posture and my back. I had been in the hospital by that point, probably, for about the 40th surgery in 12 years. And, that was my final one, since I started jiu-jitsu. That was it.
Now, what do you attribute that to? The activity of jiu-jitsu, the flexibility, the movement?
I absolutely do. And I'll tell you where I attributed it most is I can automatically tell after I'm doing an hour of jiu-jitsu that my lower limbs have much more blood flow in them. Maybe I'm not using them, like somebody else would, obviously, like planting on my toes, contracting my calves and quads and things like that. But just the movement of my legs, the motion of my body that's pulling my legs behind it, for whatever reason, there's enough blood flow, there's enough movement in there that's just creating health and wellness in the lower part of my body. So much so that I've been going through these problems for, like I said, over the best part of a decade, and I haven't had one problem since I started jiu-jitsu. That's pretty amazing. I want to rewind real quick. You were 8 years old. There was a car accident. Drunk driver hit you, and that's how you ended up in a wheelchair, paraplegic. Anybody else here? He actually created a 6-car pileup. It wasn't me directly that he hit, but he hit another car that we hit, and we got sandwiched by other cars. There was a whole big chaotic environment there. Yeah. So do you remember that? Do you still remember it? It's a long time ago. Yeah. As a result of I had a lap belt on, and as we know, objects in a vehicle stay in motion even after the vehicle is stopped. So when my car came to a complete stop, my body kept going forward, and the lap belt that I was wearing snapped my back, 2 vertebrae in my back. But I also had a head injury when my face hit the back of the front seat. So I don't remember I don't have vivid memories. I don't have clear memories, but I do remember hearing my dad making this awful groaning sound. And I remember hands being on my body. I couldn't see, but I remember hands being on my body. And then I just remember telling people to get my mom out of the car. Just get my mom out, get my mom out. And then I woke up 2 days later. That's my next recollection. Was everybody in the car okay? Are they okay now? Yeah, everybody's okay. Nobody died. Varying degrees of damage. But I probably took the worst of it. Okay. Yeah, it's a pretty tough story when you encounter it. A lot of the stuff, this podcast, we have a ton of tough stories. And wrecks are one of them, a lot of accidents, and it's horrifying, but we hear, I think for the listener, it's good to hear where it started, where your experience started in becoming a paraplegic, and absolutely. Yeah. And then that jumps into that you've had, that explains the surgeries that you were talking about. 40 surgeries is that's a lot of fucking surgeries, man. And that's a ton. But it's got to feel good to stop the surgeries for right now. Unfortunately for me and for everybody else, we're going to have more surgeries. That's life. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, man, as well as I do, that I haven't stopped it. You know what I mean? I've just put a big dam up in front of what's going on, and I've created a healthier environment for my body to exist in. That does not mean in any way that I'm not headed back to the hospital at some time in the future, So I'm well aware of that part of my life, but I just feel that I feel that something that people in the adaptive community should really understand is how difficult it is to stay healthy. And healthy comes in many forms, but being active is something that staves off a lot of these issues. And before I found jiu-jitsu, I played wheelchair basketball at a high level. It didn't stop me from obviously going through some certain issues, but it did keep my body in a very good position to deal with, the onslaught of things that come with being disabled, that come with being in a wheelchair, that come with having each different ailment, come our way. I feel like when I see somebody in a wheelchair that might be a little bit overweight or that might have a bad diet, they're really it really hits home to me how lucky I am to have the things in my life that I do that keep me healthy, because I feel that I don't necessarily have the same problems like I used to, because of the activity level that I do have. So I know what it was like. I don't know if you've seen my very first picture on Instagram. My very first picture is when I started jiu-jitsu. And I only look 6 or 7 pounds heavier, but I actually look like 2 different people now. Everything just toned up, everything cut up, everything's just, my body responded very well to the workout regime that I put it through, and the food that I take in. And I'm surrounded by so many intelligent people. I've soaked in so much just by being around people, world champions. We have combat jiu-jitsu world champions at our gym. We have like 125-pound female Bellator champions at our gym. We, we have top-level fighters like Ben Saunders, Liz Carmouche. I can't help but like soak all the efforts and the vibes that these people put out and see what they're putting into their body and how they treat their body. And, if I can do half of that, I am doing, I am just mimicking them. But if I'm doing half of it correctly, I feel like I'm just setting myself up for a lifetime of less intervention medically, and more time to be spent outside the hospital doing the things that I love to do.
You mentioned you train with champions, so you mimic what they do. You really do train with champions. I think even Tony Ferguson's out of that area too, sometimes training. I don't know. Is that right for 10th Planet?
He's more up in LA.
Okay.
I don't actually see much of his camps because they're really closed off. But I mean, I see Pearl Gonzalez. I see Alima Leigh McFarland. I see Ben Saunders. I could go on forever. I'm not trying to name drop here, but I have such positive role models in all the locations that I train in San Diego that I feel like I've just got a great roadmap to follow, and if anybody were to have issues, I know people come by your podcast and things like that. If anybody were to have issues or would like to get into jiu-jitsu or just need like a little bit of a motivational start, definitely check my stuff out and please contact me. Even get into my messages there, and I'm pretty good about returning messages, and I really love helping people get started on their journey.
Speaking about contacting Pete McGregor, we'll have your show in the show notes. We're going to have your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram accounts. We'll have everything there where they can reach out to you. You teach a bunch of seminars. You travel a bunch. One thing I want to do is kind of start at the beginning of the story of going from, I don't want to say couch or chilling or whatever it is, but going from there. Yeah. And then now all of a sudden you're really heavily involved in BJJ, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. You set up a club. You're teaching all over the world. What was your very first step when you said, it's go time, let's get this going? What was the very initial step to get you going?
I think the first step was just believing that I could do it. I think my actual first step was when I got out of the hospital and I was well enough. I contacted a gym after a bit of study. I'm a bit of a student as far as it comes to just general things, just learning about things before I put an investment of time into it. So I checked out the gyms in my area. I read up on affiliates. I had an idea of the gyms in my area and who would be offering what as far as like from a hobbyist mentality, from a good family perspective. Maybe this gym over here might have been a more competitive gym that would have been suited for me at the time. So the first step that I took was just to contact the gym owner, the black belt over there, and just ask them, hey, do you think this is something I can do? This is my disability. This is my situation. This is who I am and where I come from. Do you think I can do jiu-jitsu? And my coach at the time, he was very helpful and understanding. And he was very honest, actually. He said, I don't know if this is something that you can do, but please come out and let's give it a shot and see if we can work together to see if it is something that you can do. So over the next 2 weeks, I took 4 private lessons. And after the second private lesson, I knew right away that I wanted to take regular classes. It was actually, I brought a partner in with me. I brought a friend of mine in with me who'd done jiu-jitsu before. And we were actually having to finish all 4 of the private classes because he was feeling anxious about going into regular classes. It was me that just wanted to dive right in there.
Yeah.
But my friend's anxiety level, he asked me if it was okay if we did 2 more private classes before we jumped into regular classes. So it was funny hearing that, especially from my friend who is an able-bodied guy. 6'4", 275 pounds.
Jeez.
So yeah, and I'm a third of a body, 125 pounds, and I'm wanting to get in there, and give it hell. So
yes.
Yeah, just the first step is just believing that you can do it. That's all.
Do you do anything to get your belief up, get your confidence up?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so difficult though at the beginning to make sure of this. And it's so difficult when you're on your own to find this immediately. But you really just have to surround yourself with like-minded people, the people that fit you, the people that make you feel a part of the tribe. Ultimately, you're going to need to keep coming back. And the only thing that will keep you coming back is liking the place that you're going to, liking the people that you train with, liking the instructor that's giving you lessons, So don't feel discouraged if you go somewhere and it isn't the right fit for you right away. I've seen that happen many times. And to be honest with you, my first gym is not where I am now. I feel like my trajectory kind of took me out of that gym, and me and my former coach didn't get along about it, and I had to leave. I had to find a new path. So, people out there, like, don't get discouraged if first of all you don't find your gym, and then two, if you do find a place and it ends up not being for you after a while, don't worry about trying to find a new family and a new tribe and a new place that you fit in and that makes you feel comfortable, because ultimately it's your journey. You're the one that's going to have to keep coming back. You're the one that's going to have to like it. So the ability to keep coming back is the second step. Okay. So the first step is believing that you can do it. Second step is just keep coming back.
What would you say to someone that's worried about jumping into combat sports? It kind of hits on what you're doing, and they may have a physical, mental limitation, whatever it may be. What do you say to them to get them in there? Because it can be pretty damn intimidating when you look in that gym and you see stone cold killers, and a lot of these ones, they're very, these gyms are pretty wild in there, but there is a place for everyone.
There actually is. And there's training partners for everyone. And, I don't know what to say to those people. I'll be quite honest with you. I just don't know what to say to those people, because I feel like combat sports might not necessarily be for everyone,
Yeah, for sure.
There's a certain mentality of people like I always say this in my seminars. I go, there's something wrong with each and every one of you that's here today. Like, you actually show up to a place to get beat up. Like, there's a wrongness about that way of life that exists outside of the bubble that we live in. Inside the bubble, we all get it. We all understand why we're here. We're trying to make each other better. And it's a lot of like torment and frustration and, pain.
Yeah.
But those are the environments that a lot of us find growth. In fact, I feel like that is the only place to find growth, is when you're walking through the fire, when you're being tested through turmoil. This is where you actually find out who you are. So more of like in a very concentrated way. I think jiu-jitsu teaches that to you, teaches you about yourself in that way. So, don't be frustrated if you find out jiu-jitsu is not for you. There are definitely other martial arts out there, that you can find success in. But I feel like for the disabled, there is no more effective martial art out there than jiu-jitsu. I really do believe that.
That's awesome. I want to hit on this. It could, like, if we could even strip jiu-jitsu out of this, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and put whatever goal or passion it is. Before I throw this question out, just put whatever it is in your head that you're going after. And I want to give a little bit of background. I saw an interview with you, and it said in February 2017, you sold your home, guitar, everything valuable that you owned and you put the money towards traveling, going around the world, training in San Diego, putting all the hours in on the mat and so forth. What is it? What is it that finally, I mean, that's not just like going out, just slightly going after it. It was all in. That's all in right
all
there.
In. Yeah. Pushed all the chips right across the table. It was a perfect storm of circumstances for me. I just come out of a marriage. I thought I was going into a marriage where I was going to have a family, the whole like house, children, all that kind of stuff. So we got married, we bought the house, then we got divorced. So I had my house on the market for almost 8 to 9 months by the time it sold. But when it sold, I had just gone through my change from my old team to 10th Planet. There's a lot of backstory with that change. But when I found 10th Planet, when I found Richie Martinez, my coach, he made me feel like I'd been part of his tribe, part of his team, since I started jiu-jitsu. I felt like I'd wasted years not coming out to California. Like I found him late, that's the mentality that I had. And I wasn't going to waste another second not being part of what I knew was going to make me the most happy. So, I'd gone through some experiences with my old gym. I'd gone through some experiences with my new gym. I was coming out of a divorce. My house sold right after I found 10th Planet, like a week after I found 10th Planet. And it was really easy for me at that point to like draw connections in my mind to like, Pete, your time is running out in life. You have finite time to do what it is you want to do with your life. Like this thing kept ringing in my head. Like, your house has been on the market for a year and it just sold. You've just found a new team who loves you, and respects you and will help you get better and will support everything that you do. Now is the time. And, after the house sold, it wasn't hard for me to just push everything else across the table. I sold 4 or 5 guitars. I sold my Jeep. I sold a couple other things that would give me value, and I put all that money in the bank. And I've basically been on the road since February 1st, 2017 of last year.
That's pretty amazing. That's a great story. I think that sometimes I'm kind of at that point too in life. I've been there where it's just like, if it's not getting me towards where I want to be, screw it. I'm done. I'm not doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Strip it down. But you're doing, yours is very dramatic. I mean, you're hitting the road. Like you said, you haven't really stopped hitting the road since February 2017. You're doing this minimalist thing, man. You're getting rid of any extra stuff that's not getting you towards where you want. And that's pretty interesting. Is that your deal, man? Are you a minimalist?
I have been up until recently, and now I've just taken on a girlfriend. So come
on, that's okay.
So I'm not exactly living minimalist the past month and a bit here. It's actually a brand new relationship, but I'm actually welcoming a new chapter of my life here. I'll tell you, being on the road for that long, it's tiresome, and living out of your bag, not having like a stable home and not having people, that love you, waiting for you when you get back. I mean, I have, a family, mom and brother, nieces and things like that. But I mean, I'm talking about like the love portion of your life. I've sacrificed a lot of that to live on the road the last 2 years and be nomadic, and find my way through jiu-jitsu and find what it is that makes me happy. But I feel like this new part of my life here is starting, and I'm ready to become more of an ambassador for jiu-jitsu and be more of a I don't want to say figurehead. I just want to be able to like influence people to get into jiu-jitsu. I don't want to have any say over the future jiu-jitsu or how it progresses. My only concern is bringing people to jiu-jitsu. And I feel like, with the contacts I've made in my seminar tour, with the time and effort that I put in California, training and competing, I've just set myself up with a really, really good jiu-jitsu resume, and one that hopefully I can use to really, really help people, propel a lot of people to come into this fold and make adaptive jiu-jitsu so much stronger.
That's pretty badass. Now, I can't help but ask this question. It comes to my mind right away. Were you just crashing on couches and stuff? Were you just what were you doing? This whole, it's got to, wear on you in terms of finances, everything.
It is. I am fortunate in that I have a bit of a passive income. I'm by no means rich, but I have a bit of an income without having to work. Mm-hmm. That keeps me sustained. The problem is that being in a wheelchair, you really need an environment where it's accessible, because I think that something that we all can relate to is having the ability to just be comfortable, have a place to crash, have a place to clean ourselves, and mm-hmm. It's not always, we're not always getting these things in a 400 square foot apartment in London. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've actually, I just came back from a seminar tour where I did 20 stops in all 10 Canadian provinces. That's the whole country, basically.
Yep.
And I did it all for free. I did it all out of my own pocket. Damn. I didn't ask for anything. And anytime anybody asked to hey, we took donations as a club and we want to give them to you, I was like, no, I don't want any money. I had places for them to donate that money. And I just simply wanted to do it because I wanted to do it my own way. I wanted to do it on my own dime. And I didn't know if it was possible to add value to people's jiu-jitsu with my jiu-jitsu. I wasn't convinced of that. So I wanted to make sure that when I went out on my seminar tour that one, I was being altruistic in the teaching. Here, I'm giving you all this information for free in case somebody comes into your gym like me, and you can give them, big head start, right? But I also wanted to do it in a way that that wasn't hey, I have all the answers. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to have people be paying money $50 a head to come to a thing where they're not getting any value out of it. So here's what I've done. I've done this seminar tour, these 20 stops. I've gone to all 20 places and I've killed it. And now I have 20 gym owners in my pocket, not in my pocket, but I have 20 gym owners standing behind me at any one time, willing to give words of encouragement, advice, vouch for me on any future, big projects I choose to incur, and I hope to do these seminar tours, hopefully donation based across places like New Zealand, Australia. I've been in talks with people to go to China, Singapore, and hopefully I can do, I have lots of contacts in the jiu-jitsu community in Britain, and hopefully I can do a seminar tour in my home country of Scotland, England, Ireland, and hopefully take one to America. I have a lot of contacts, a lot of adaptive jiu-jitsu friends and competitors who definitely could add value with me on a multi-person seminar tour. I've got big plans. I think I've got things in the works here over the next year or two that I feel will really give the opportunity to really draw people, adaptive persons into jiu-jitsu. Yeah,
there seems to be a gap there still that needs to be filled like you're doing right now, exactly what you're doing. Because at some point, the majority will have some sort of physical limitation. They will. If you're aging, you're going to have it. So it's applicable to pretty much the majority of the people at some point. You'd like to keep them still active in it. You hear a lot of fighters, we hear the story, you see them kind of wear down. I see fighters a lot where I live. I see definitely the wear and tear has hit hard. I've also seen some really scary ones that it doesn't feel like their bodies are breaking down even a little bit. And they are really scary.
Yeah.
Some of them are, you look at them and you're like, damn, that's a really scary dude sitting across me right now. But you see,
absolutely.
Yeah, you see the health though. You see it break down a little bit. So, one thing that I think about when I'm talking to you is you're so freaking driven. You're so driven across the board. Do you incorporate stuff in your daily routine? And if you do, maybe it's not all the time, but you know that it's added to your success when you do it. It makes you better.
Early in my journey, I was one of those guys that was like so hyper focused on the martial way and reading a lot of like Eastern philosophy books. So, early in my journey, I would say that like, books like the Hagakure to a certain extent, there's a guy, an author, his name is Chogyam Trungpa. He wrote a book. He wrote actually a few books that I picked up. One of them is The Sacred Path of the Warrior. He's basically a Buddhist guy who talks about, just mindfulness practices and, just being aware of yourself and your state. And, just more to answer your question, I think my drive just comes from being fucking stubborn, and I truly have this sense of like, I can do it. I've always had that about me. Even before I was in a chair, I've always had this, like, I can do this. I feel like I can, despite the limitations of my size or my age or my disability or what have you. I was always with that mindset. My father was a coach of many soccer teams when I was a child, and he would take me to adult practices where they would like fire the ball at me, like full on. I was only 5 years old at the time, but my dad would tell them to like, not take it easy on me. And I grew up in an environment where it was just like that. My dad was pretty hard on me, and I just had a mentality of just being stubborn, like you're not going to break me. And that's, if anybody asks me my superpower, it's just that. Like I can take an immense amount of pain. I'm not necessarily the most skilled guy. I'm not necessarily the most dexterous guy. I'm pretty intelligent, but I'm not always the smartest guy in the room. But one thing I do have is I can take a lot of pain, and you'll never get me to say I quit. Never.
It seems like that's the mentality with people that can handle a lot of the physical aspects of life too, not just mental, but that add those two in is, there's some sort of rigor growing up, some sort of don't quit attitude that seems to pay off a lot. For me, it was just like, for me, it was always just, I remember my parents just being like, just get out there, play football. Who gives a shit? Just figure it out, man. Exactly. Yeah, just go figure this out. And they were pretty cool about it. They were pretty, for sure, they're awesome about it. Now,
and how were the kids? How were the kids that you had when you were dealing with growing up?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Holy
yeah, they were pretty
shit.
Ruthless, eh?
Oh,
yeah.
I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and that was like,
shit.
They were awful when it came to that stuff. It was just the worst. But we were all tight though. We were all buddies, but still there was like a layer of viciousness, whether I gave it to them or they gave it back to me. It was a different layer. I'm it's basically the same age as you, and I think our era was a little bit different than kids coming up now in terms of viciousness. Yeah. That was crazy.
And I was actually fortunate in a way that I got 50-50 of that. I got 50 of the awkward brutality, and then I got 50% of like the camaraderie stuff, like the good-natured shit, Mm-hmm. So like I think playing sport and being around other disabled people from an early age, it was good to have that, like, you're just as different as I am. You know what I mean? So it wasn't always like a bad situation for me. I wasn't always ruthless for me. I felt like I got a bit of a reprieve in that way, where I was kind of, coming up playing a lot of wheelchair basketball and things like that. And I was around other people in an environment where it was okay to be me, you know?
Yeah. I feel like for myself, I found like I don't want to call it a safe spot. I don't know what you want to call it, but I jumped into I became a skater. I jumped into the punk scene. I did that. Nice. And it was like there was peace in there, man. There was it was a better place for me. And that really got me through some tough years. Cause man, those grade school years all the way through high school can be fucking ruthless. And so you got to find a way to float. Yeah. You got to find a way to float. It doesn't matter what you got going on. Everybody has to find a way.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. And it definitely, I feel like in our era, we just had to get past it. There's not this victimhood mentality.
No, you know? Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like, maybe that, again, a perfect storm of situations that just kind of, led me to a place where it was just easy for me to just do things or not do them. That old Yoda thing, there's no try, there's only do or do not.
Well, we're at this juncture in our life. You're at this juncture in your life. What would you say to your younger self?
Stop trying to fucking prove yourself to everybody. Mm-hmm. Stop trying to replace, intelligence with bravado. Well, stop thinking that you fucking know everything. Admit when you're wrong. Say you're sorry more often. Be humble. Say thank you. I wish I could go back and say many, many things to my younger self. Many, many things. It took me a long time to just understand about myself. I feel like I didn't get the chance to grow up until I was about 30, maybe about 28. I had a real, my cousin who was 3 years younger than me died of stage 4 cancer. She was diagnosed and then died within 2 years. And that really I'd done nothing basically with my life at that point. I felt like when I look back, I just existed. I'd done good things. I'd done some okay things. But I just hadn't lived my true potential, I felt, and when she died, everything changed in my world. I went back to school. I went and got an education. I tried to do the 9-to-5 thing, and found out it wasn't for me. And then eventually found my way to jiu-jitsu, and here I am. But, through that tragedy, it taught me, something that I should have already known about myself at that point, and that life is finite, and you really have a short window to take what it is that from life that you want and enjoy it, stop living in this, I'll get to it later mentality. I feel like I hear this so much in the jiu-jitsu world. I'll be back to the gym, or when life settles down, I'll get here. I always make the analogy to before you had a child in your life, to married couples, before you had a child, did you ever think that you would have so little time to do anything else in your life? Did you think that you would find time to take care of your parental responsibilities in your already busy world? But you did it because it needed to be done. And that's just what you did. Same with life. If jiu-jitsu is something that makes you healthy, like it does me, you'll find a way to just keep going after it no matter what's coming up in your life. So, I'm in a fortunate position myself. I really don't judge a lot of people this way. I do have the opportunity to make the best out of my situation. That's what I'm doing though. I'm taking every possible spare minute of my life and devoting it to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, man. But like you said, you found this, and that's awesome advice for you. That's seriously sweet advice for your younger self. It seems like the system, though, in place is not to admit the finiteness of us all. It's kind of avoid it, push it down the road. I mean, like more, getting that mortgage, getting that job, do that. And then, when you retire, you'll have time to do it. And that's bullshit, man. And every day is the time to do it. It is right now. That whole system sucks. But the way you're approaching it is so passionate. It really is badass. That's one of the best answers I've gotten to that type of question, for sure.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
If not the best. So, yeah, for sure. Now, I think that when I'm thinking about, like, you've already discussed, like, stuff you turned to or worked with, what is something, like, if I could pick your brain, what is something that you share most often with others? It doesn't matter if they're adapting to something or not, but you share with them, maybe a book, a website. What is it that you share with others that you find so much value in that you think can impact their lives?
Other than jiu-jitsu, we're talking, right?
No, if that's your answer, that's your answer, man. If that's number one, that's number one.
I'll say this, okay? The most important thing for me to ever tell people is just to be happy. Do whatever it is in life that makes you happy. Like, there's a guy out there who's like a motivational speaker. His name's Gary Vaynerchuk. Some people are into him, some people aren't. But I get real value in this thing that he says, what is it that you love? What is it that you're good at? Find that. Find what makes you happy, and then triple fucking down on it.
That's
like, don't double down on it. Triple down on it. Don't put half of yourself into it. Put 1,000,000% in there. Like, find more than 100% and pour yourself into that, because it will only give back to you. I've done that with jiu-jitsu. I swear, like, every time I put myself further and further into jiu-jitsu, the more I give to jiu-jitsu, the more it gives back to me, So, I feel like happiness is a lost art in society today. Even like I don't know if it's actually a Heath Ledger quote, but there's a Heath Ledger quote that circulates around the internet these days. And it's like, everybody asks you, where you work, how much you make, how many kids you have, how big your house is, but nobody asks you if you're happy.
Yeah.
That's fucking huge to me, man. And I've always wanted to be known now more than ever. I want people to know me as, hey, that guy's happy. That guy's a great guy to be around. That guy's fun to have, to hang out with for a couple of hours. I want people to think of me like that. It's more important than ever in my life that people view me as a nice person. Not that I care what anybody thinks, but the people that know me, the people that care about me, the people that love me, I want them to think of me first as a nice human being who was happy.
That's pretty great, man. That's a great perspective. You compete too. You roll with others. You compete often. Are you on that trajectory to go out there and continue competing?
I am, but I'm about being more focused, about being in jiu-jitsu for a long time. So I made a couple of posts recently on my Instagram. I've been going through some injuries lately. I've really been battling some serious injuries since my Worlds camp, since November, December of last year. And I've been trying to battle through these things, and I keep telling myself that they'll get better and they'll get better, but they're not getting better, and I don't think they ever will get better. But I'm wanting to compete. The fire it burns hot inside of me, but I know that the way I prepare myself for battle, it takes a lot out of me, and I know that with my age and my disability, I've really got to be more intelligent about the fights that I take or the tournaments that I do. Because I've done tournaments where I fought like 11 times in one day. That's crazy. That's pretty ridiculous. it's pretty ridiculous for anyone, let alone somebody with a third of a body. So, I mean, I'm looking at I've got a super fight coming up. One-off matches in jiu-jitsu are called super fights. I don't know why they make them sound so grandiose, but anyway, I have a fight coming up that's in January in Florida. I'm going to be starting to prepare for that in November. I fly out to San Diego to start like a 8-9 week training camp for that particular contest. But going forward, you know, I'm going to be more picky about the things that I decide to become involved in. So if it doesn't first further adaptive jiu-jitsu, and second, you know, further, you know, push my platform and my agenda and what I'm trying to achieve with my journey, you know, I probably won't be taking part in it. So
that's some serious laser-like focus, because I know you do like to compete. I've followed you. Yeah. I know you do like that. Now, what has combat sports taught you about approaching life? We know how your mindset is, but if somebody jumps into combat sports, what can they take away from it?
I think you can probably take away a greater peace of mind, a greater understanding of yourself. Those two things, you know, are generally really important in the world that we live in. You know, we live in a real chaotic world. And I think that, you know, the ability to find peace, you know, is paramount. Mm-hmm. You know, the ability to find calm within the storm is paramount. You know, so I mean, yeah, that's big there.
Now, somebody that's so heavily into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, are you a big fan of MMA, or are you so pure that you enjoy more of the BJJ matches?
No, I actually what made me realize what Jiu Jitsu was the first UFC. I have like a story like everybody else does. You know, my father was not into watching MMA. He was expressly against it. So much so that me and my brother had to sneak the first UFC tape into our house and watch it at like 2:00 in the morning while he was in bed. You know, so I was introduced to Royce Gracie, you know, very early on, you know, but my love of combat sports actually came through my mom. My mom, when she was young, her father used to take her on daddy-daughter dates, and their daddy-daughter dates would be to the local boxing gym to see some of the best lightweight boxers in the world at the time train. So her love of boxing as a child translated to watching Friday night fights with me and my brother when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old for many, many years. I mean, I just watched Joe Rogan interview Teddy Atlas, and I can't tell you how many times I've sat with my mom and listened to Teddy Atlas like go over, you know, fight stats and breaking down like fights and things like that. So, you know, it really took me back when I listened to that podcast just recently, you know, of sitting with my mom and you know, curling up next to her watching like Pernell Whitaker fight, you know. So
all right, so we have a big fight, Conor McGregor coming up to kind of lighten the interview near the end. But course. Yeah, I was lucky enough. I went to his last fight with Nate Diaz. In fact, we got I had friends my brother had friends that gave him tickets. We snuck in. They were like the worst seats in the house, and we snuck up to the front because nobody was sitting there, and then nobody arrived there, and we didn't have to move. So we got to see that fight up and close. It was crazy. It was freaking nuts. Awesome. Yeah, the crowd was crazy. Awesome. Well, we've got Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov fighting like a week and a half or something. Something like it's right around the corner. Do you have predictions?
Right around the corner. Yeah, Conor's going to touch him and he's going to go down.
I think so too.
You know, I feel like there's going to be two Khabibs that could be possible here. There could be the Khabib that comes out and just wants to, like Jose Aldo, he's going to jump the gun. He's going to want to come out. He's going to want to rush him. He's going to want to get his hands on him. Conor's going to put that Khabib away early. So the next Khabib that's going to show up is the guy that's going to be methodical. He's going to pot shot him from the outside. He's going to wear him down. He's going to hope to drag him into deep water. And then he's going to, look to shoot on him and start dragging him to the ground. I feel like Conor McGregor is going to be so busy in that first round that the mistake that Khabib will make from sitting on the outside will end up wearing him down just as much as Conor. So I'm actually interested in seeing that fight. I want to see the dance of the endurance between them both, because, as Nate exposed, in their first fight, Conor's got some issues as far as conserving his power, and distributing his energy correctly. I don't think he makes that same mistake against Khabib, but we're all waiting to see how good his wrestling is, So, but I feel like nobody can prepare for the power that Conor McGregor has in both hands, but his left hand especially.
He's nuts, right?
And it is, and I feel like this is just going to be another one,
I'm hoping to get tickets to it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off. It's a tough ticket again.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy ticket, man. Crazy ticket. And it's so expensive too, I heard.
Yeah, I've went to a few here in the last couple of years, but I didn't want to throw down the cash. Like a lot of locals just get tickets, and that's going to be a really tough ticket to get. So we'll see. Sure, I would like to check it out, but yeah, I like I said, I see a lot of those fighters around. And speaking of which, I don't want to let you go without asking you. You talked about Richie Martinez. Who else, recent times, has been the most integral in the community to your success?
Oh wow. Wow. Who has been most integral to my success? I mean, no more anyone than Richie for sure, but I feel like just my jiu-jitsu trajectory, like the way I roll and the way that I compete now, the way that I present my jiu-jitsu, Brandon McCaffrey has really like propelled me in a different direction with my jiu-jitsu, so much so that this seminar tour that I went on, I basically taught half of the things that he's taught me. Like I found so much value in the things that he taught me that I decided to go across Canada, and half of my seminar is taught from things that I've taken away from him. So I only spent a week with him in Decatur, but he is widely regarded in 10th Planet as the sharpest mind in our system. And, I was leaving the day he had a seminar in San Diego. I was flying out the same day, but I got a chance to sit in his seminar for an hour. And in that hour, I knew that I had to go spend time with him. So a month later, I flew out to Alabama on my own dime, just because I knew I needed to train with him, and spent 7 days with him. And he changed my jiu-jitsu completely. So for anybody who doesn't know him, he's the 1 minute jiu-jitsu hack guy. He has an online MMA school with, oh my God, his name's escaping me. Cole Miller. Yeah. So, definitely search him out. Brandon McCaffrey. He's got a weird spelling last name, McCaffrey. McCaffrey.
Jesus.
But definitely check out his stuff. Go to his websites, anything that he has. I think he only charges like $5 a month for some of his technical videos. He has a whole video series out on Rubber Guard and the Meat Hook series that's just off the chain right now. So I can't say enough good things about Brandon McCaffrey. And please go check him out. Please subscribe to all of his stuff. You'll only benefit from it.
Well, speaking about checking out, checking out stuff, so you're going to be around, you're going to be teaching, you're going to do seminars. People are probably going to listen and be like, I want to do that. And eventually you may cross paths. What's the best account to, I'm going to list all your accounts, but what's the number one account to really get updated where you're going to be traveling to seminars where they could watch you? Maybe you're posting videos, whatever it may be. Yeah,
my Instagram is where I'm most active. So that's deadweightjj. just how it sounds. DEADWEIGHTJJ for jiu-jitsu. And that's like my everything active, everything recent. It all goes through my Instagram. But I'm active on my Facebook, not so much on my Twitter. But my Instagram is where I'm doing all sorts of like up to the date posts, up to the second posts, through my story and my feed, and I do all those long-winded posts as well to like show people my journey and let people in on my life a little bit. But yeah, everything basically runs through my Instagram, so please definitely check that out.
Nice. Thanks, Pete McGregor, for coming on. You're a bad dude, man. I really appreciate you giving us your time. We'll keep people updated on you, and we'll check back in for sure.
Hey, thanks for giving me the opportunity, Scott. I really appreciate it.
That's our episode. Remember, you can find contact information for guests in the show notes or on our website, livingadaptive.com. On livingadaptive.com, you can also find previous episodes, writings, and a bunch of other good stuff. So go there now. Peace.